How about the oversharing therapist seeker? Oh my God, let me tell you about my baby daddy. Oh no, you're trapped in an Uber confessional booth. Suddenly, you're getting all the tea. Drunk texts, side chicks, restraining order strategy. Now you're giving legal advice when all you wanted was a ride to a concert.
And it wasn't simple pop songs either. I mean, we're talking epic stuff. I could hear the drums, Fernando. The roar of guns and cannons almost made me cry. Is this music for disco dancing, or are we overthrowing the Mexican government here?
Who had charity events and made donations to save the Hollywood sign twice?
Okay.
Was it A, Peg Entwistle, B, Betty Davis, C, Dick Clark, or D, Hugh Hefner?
You attempt to squat, but the jumpsuit creaks ominously. This is not fabric designed for a functional movement. Look, I know I'm a super trooper, but these tights are going to bind me.
This is the Snaggletooth Extreme Metal Podcast.
You had a really rough time with traffic this week, didn't you?
It was horrible. It rained every morning, and as
Or
you
what?
know, no one can drive if it's raining.
Hmm.
You know, there's always some accident horrible somewhere. Somebody, can't drive in the wet.
Well, I thought we would take a chance on a new bit.
Mm.
Let's talk about a band that redefined huge success. This is a band that made U2 look like a garage band and Iron Maiden like a kid's TV show. They were not just a band, they were a phenomenon. Abba. Now, I did some Google research and I found out that they've sold something like 380 million records worldwide. Their music has been made into musicals, feature films. That ABBA Gold compilation CD that came out in the early 2000s, Christ, they were putting that into Frosted Flakes as a prize for a while, and it was a popular consolation prize if you lost out on Final Jeopardy.
People think that artists like Billie Eilish and Taylor Swift are big, but with ABBA, we are talking decades of massive international success. Their music is everywhere. Tribes of reindeer herders in Siberia who don't even have electricity would start humming Dancing Queen if someone mentions it in a snowstorm.
That's right. Yep.
Nobody could have seen it coming, with very un-rock and roll names of the band members like Bjorn Ulvaeus and Agnetha Fitskog. World domination did not seem likely. Plus, there are songs on the early albums with titles like Me and Bobby's Brother. Must be some weird accidental threesome. King Kong Song and Nina, Pretty Ballerina. I think even the Wiggles would have found these infantile.
They had a lot of work to do. I think eventually they developed the point, and then they put out that song "Money, Money, Money" in '76. I don't think that was a song as much as it was a conjuring. Soon they were huge. It was a veritable shit ton of pickled herring flowing into their pot every day. And it wasn't simple pop songs either. I mean, we're talking epic stuff. I could hear the drums, Fernando. The roar of guns and cannons almost made me cry. Is this music for disco dancing, or are we overthrowing the Mexican government here? There are national anthems that are not this catchy. I also submit that it is virtually impossible to be angry or disgruntled when ABBA's playing in the background. You could be a genocidal warlord with blood on your hands, but the moment that Chica Tica, you've broken a feather, let's patch it together stuff starts playing, you're crying into your epaulets and calling mom. Thing is, though, great as the music is, I recommend avoiding the videos and the pictures. The outfits were pretty horrifying. Is she wearing a plaid jumper with a corduroy hat? Strange knee-high boots and long robes like they're going to reenact the nativity scene or something?
It's a virtual nightmare. Iridescent spacesuits and sequin, sheep-herding outfits like they lost a bet with the costume designers from The Sound of Music and Battlestar Galactica. Or maybe they wrote B-sides I haven't heard about visiting the Renaissance Fair on Saturn. Let's embrace the disco-era spandex catsuit, sometimes in eye-catching colors and materials, and throw in a few capes, sequins, and flowing fabrics. Hire a person to follow them around with a fan so they always look dramatic. Who could forget the metallic jumpsuits worn by Benny and Jordan that were so impactful they were dubbed the Waterloo outfits? Frida once wore leopard print while singing about an eagle. That's not fashion, it's psychological warfare.
Did the Seven Dwarfs show up for that? Good Lord. Okay, that brings us to the Abba fashion experiment. So you walk into the office on Monday morning in full Abba regalia, sequin jumpsuit, knee-high go-go boots, flowing cape. Immediately, Karen from HR appears out of nowhere. Is this business casual? She whispers, looking concerned. And you know she's only jealous because only you can feel the beat of the tambourine.
Oh, yeah. At the coffee machine, your coworker stares at the rhinestone-encrusted space boots you've been wearing and mutters, big weekend? Having the time of my life, in fact.
Having the time of my life. Yes.
In a Zoom meeting, the strategically placed desk fan you brought to replicate Abba's permanent windblown look keeps blowing your hair and fluffy scarves into your mouth. Your boss asks if you're calling from inside a hurricane. At this point, you ask him to gimme an extra PTO day.
Very well done, yes. At the grocery store, you're just trying to buy some eggs, but the checker is mesmerized by your shimmering silver cape. Wow, are you headed to a 70s party? And all you can think is, Mamma Mia, here we go again. The person behind you whispers, I think they're part of that doomsday cult.
Oh my.
And finally, we'll close it out with at the gym. You try working out in a gold lame catsuit. Within minutes, you realize Abba must have never broken a sweat in these things because you're hotter than a disco inferno. You attempt to squat, but the jumpsuit creaks ominously. This is not fabric designed for a functional movement. Look, I know I'm a super trooper, but these tights are going to bind me. Okay, want to talk about a feature interview?
Our feature interview this week is with the one, the only Bobby Ferry of the San Diego sludge metal band 16. We have a refreshing chat with Bobby about the history of the band, the making of their fantastic new album, Guides for the Misguided, the evils of organized religion, and what he calls the California skater mentality, and so much more. Stay tuned for that. Let's play a song. This is Hat on a Bed.
Okay, let's talk about Patreon. The site is patreon.com/Snaggletooth Podcast. And for $6.66 a month, you get a hot-rodded DeLorean stuck on 87 miles an hour, full of Mark and Stace.
Yes, for less than you spend on your favorite meal at your hopefully favorite fast food joint, you can help support the show and in turn support the underground artists that we promote. And we're going to a show in 2 weeks.
That's right, we are.
At which we will live stream. So if you want to follow us on Instagram and catch some of the shows we go to, of course, we will be live streaming in very short order from Maryland Death Fest. In fact, we were just at a great show. We had to go see Undergang
Yep.
because we had interviewed Martin on the show previously about Strychnos. As soon as we saw he was coming, we had to get in there.
What a
Wow.
great band.
Yeah, they
ripped it up.
Awesome.
And of course, here's the picture of us with Martin, if you didn't see it on Instagram.
So, oh my God.
You can tell we had a good time.
He was such a great guy. As soon as he recognized us, he literally jumped off the stage.
I think he's the most death metal person I've ever met. Like, it's just like in his blood. Like, while he's playing bass, he's like doing stuff like this, and it's just in his bones and in his marrow, you know. So anyway, yeah, get over to our Instagram page and you'll see all the streaming from that show. And like Stace said, we're going to be out there again in a couple weeks. So hop on over to Patreon, and for $6.66 a month, you'd be helping us out and helping the underground metal scene. So
Plus, treating yourself to exclusive content.
that's right. I'm starting to itch a little bit because I think it's time. Hit it.
And now it's time for Obnoxious Trivia!
Okay. I don't think I'm mentally prepared for this at all. Let's do it.
This is a true story, though.
Okay.
In Clarendon Laboratory at Oxford University, a bell has been ringing for at least 175 years. Because A, it's solar powered. B, it operates with the energy generated by its own swinging pendulum. C, no one is sure why. D, it uses static electricity.
Or E, Mary left her Tupperware in the microwave. Let's see. I'm going to go with B. It operates by energy generated by its own swinging pendulum.
The answer is C. No one knows why.
Okay.
It was made.
None of the above.
They're afraid to take it apart. They know it's these special batteries that was made by the inventor.
Mhm.
They actually had to put it in a case because the bell has been ringing continuously. But the battery is getting so low now, they can see it vibrating, but the human ear can't hear it anymore, but they know it's still ringing.
That is an obnoxious trivia question.
Yeah,
Very
that
much.
is very obnoxious. Yeah, they have no idea, but they don't want to take it apart because they don't want to
Well,
hurt whatever it is. All right, number 2, the only place in the wild where alligators and crocodiles exist together. Is it A, Cuba, B, Jamaica, C, southern Mexico, or D, South Florida?
I'll go with A, Cuba.
It's D, South Florida.
Really?
It's in the Everglades.
There's crocodiles in the Everglades?
There are, because there are areas in the Everglades because crocodiles and alligators like different levels of brackishness or levels of salt, but they both exist in the Everglades. So there are areas where their territories overlap.
I went to the Everglades about 6 or 7 years ago because my daughter won this trip. But anyway, down there, and they took us on a tour of the Everglades. And at that time, because of the, I think it was because of the infestation from the snakes. What is it? The
Anaconda?
anacondas. There were no birds. They were like, in case you're wondering why there are no birds, the anacondas ate all of them. And I'm just,
Wow. Yeah, so
weird. Anyway,
if you ever
Like-
want to,
my story of the being in the Everglades. Yeah. So, okay. So far I'm 0 for 2.
who had charity events and made donations to save the Hollywood sign twice?
Okay.
Was it A, Peg Entwistle, B, Betty Davis, C, Dick Clark, or D, Hugh Hefner?
Hollywood sign.
Like they had to do charity events too.
I'll go with my personal hair model, Betty Davis.
It was Hugh Hefner.
No way.
He threw parties at the mansion and twice raised money when it was in disrepair to save it.
Wow.
A is a red herring. She's actually someone who jumped off the Hollywood sign and is said to haunt it.
The only Hollywood sign story I know is the guy from Love Hate. Remember I told
So-
you that one? Yeah.
And apparently many years later it was in danger again, so he just threw another party.
All right. So far I'm doing great. Let's wrap it up.
A grandson of Napoleon Bonaparte, Charles Bonaparte, who happened to be a lawyer from Baltimore, who knew that French connection, founded an organization that would be the forerunner of what? A, the IRS, B, the FBI, C, the Navy SEALs, or D, the National Tobacco and Firearm Commission?
I'm going to go with D, the National Tobacco Firearms.
0 for 4, it is the FBI. He actually started like an investigative board that would later become the FBI.
What about Herbert Hoover? I thought Herbert Hoover was in charge of the FBI.
Well, he was actually first tasked with developing the forerunner to what Herbert Hoover would turn into the FBI. So there's
Oh,
Napoleon Bonaparte's legacy right here in Baltimore.
great. All right. Well, 1 for 4 has been obnoxious trivia. Super obnoxious version this time. Okay. It's time for our Snaggletoon. And this week, we decided to take a look at the cast of characters that can be your Uber driver. We call this segment Car Battery. Start off with our first profile, the Uber Relaxed Uber. Now, this guy is so chill, he makes a sloth look hyperactive. Cruising 10 miles an hour under the speed limit, Steely Dan at full blast, and you're just watching your ETA get later and later. Every turn is extra wide, like he's piloting a cruise ship. He's chit-chatting about the weather, the price of eggs, how gas used to be cheaper back in the day.
Meanwhile, you're gripping your phone, mentally calculating if you could just tuck and roll out of the car and still make it on time. At this rate, you could jog to your destination, stop for coffee, and still beat him there. But no rush, man. He's just here for the vibes. Oh, and the second you got in, the smell of weed nearly knocked you unconscious. Now you're going to show up late and smelling like Snoop Dogg's tour bus. Great. I hope your boss and or date are okay with a contact high.
Next up would be the Mad Max reject. This one screeches to a stop so hard you swear you hear tires begging for mercy. Every start is a jackrabbit start. Every turn is a hairpin turn. The constant beep, beep, beep isn't a car alarm. It's the collision warning system screaming for help. You clutch the door handle, debating if Uber should offer helmet rentals. Hey, do these seatbelts have an eject function?
How about the oversharing therapist seeker? Oh my God, let me tell you about my baby daddy. Oh no, you're trapped in an Uber confessional booth. Suddenly, you're getting all the tea. Drunk texts, side chicks, restraining order strategy. Now you're giving legal advice when all you wanted was a ride to a concert.
Next up would be the conspiracy theorist. No small talk, just an AM radio station at full volume. The guy in the speaker is ranting about how turn signals are the government's way of tracking your vehicle and how the moon landing was faked by Stanley Kubrick on Mars. You just nod along, trying not to ask if the foil hat is standard issue for this ride. Says he used to work for the CIA, but not really at liberty to talk about it.
The Uber evangelist. They pick you up, crank up the gospel music, and suddenly it's a mobile revival service. Next thing you know, they're explaining the book of Job while you just sit there in a pentagram fishnets, corpse paint, and a Bathory hoodie. Ma'am, have you accepted the Lord? Actually, I think it would be better if you accepted stop signs for safety's sake.
Next up is the Uber hustler. You think you're just getting a ride, but nope. This is a side hustle on his side hustle. Hey, you need bottled water, Kleenex? How about a phone charger, chapstick, perfume, condoms? This isn't an Uber, it's a Walgreens on wheels. And you just know if you say yes, they're charging twice the price.
The nostalgic storyteller. Buckle up. This isn't a ride. This is a live action audiobook of the complete and unabridged history of things you never cared about. The second you shut the door, boom, he launches into it. You ever heard of Junior's Dry Cleaners? No. Oh, let me tell you, back in 72, it was just a tiny little shop. One guy and a dream. By 78, they expanded to 3 locations. And boy, let me tell you, scintillating expansion story.
At this point, your soul leaves your body. You check your phone, ETA 17 minutes. Oh my God. Then he hits you with random town founder trivia. See that Panda Express? Used to be a gravel pit back in 1912. Wild, right? You fake a nod, but he's not done. I used to drive a taxi in New York City. Oh, this might be interesting. One time I picked up William Shatner. Whoa, what was he like? He pauses. Didn't say much. Anyway, we loved the challenge. Shirts, blouses. There was no gravy stain we couldn't handle. You're thinking, dear God, 15 more minutes. How has only 2 minutes passed? He keeps going. By the time you get to your destination, you've learned the history of parking meters, how he almost invested in Radio Shack. Big mistake, let me tell you. That he doesn't trust direct deposit and cash is king. You get out of the Uber knowing too much and nothing at all. This has been Car Battery. All right, I can't take it anymore. Let's play a song. This is Blood Atonement Blues. Okay, let's talk about Coffee AM.
Coffee AM is an online coffee broker that provides you with super tasty coffee. Every time we run out and end up getting something else, we're vastly disappointed.
It's very much a downer, yes.
It's so fresh and the flavors are so good. We've learned to rely on it.
Yep.
They are also a points program, so once you have made purchases, you can eventually redeem them for points off your order.
I think she has some things to show off.
I do. Let's see here. So we love the flavors of Coffee AM. They come in these great vacuum saved boxes with bags,
Yeah.
which keep them very fresh until you crank one open, although you can smell them out the hole. This is an Irish cream coffee. This will put the bounce in your step in the morning.
Well.
You can get decaf if you're a weirdo, but we prefer the caffeinated here.
Mhm.
But it is an option on most flavors. As well as this is a dark chocolate coffee. So that'll definitely get your day off to the right start. These are delicious. As you can get them whole bean if you prefer to grind your own beans. I like the drip grind, but it's completely up to you. You can get them personalized. You can pretty much ask them to do whatever you want. They also have a wide selection of teas, K-cups.
Death to the K-cup.
I'm not a
Like
K-cup
it.
fan, but
like
they do have them if you would like that. Everything is FedEx to your door, so you too can wake up to the freshest coffee you have ever had. And if you use our link, it will save you off your first order.
Very good. Okay. It's time for a bombastic plastic.
Bombastic.
I uncovered this little nugget. It's the 2008 album from the band Moho, Chotacabra. So, Spain is a country known for many things: inquisitions, conquistadors, olive oil, flamenco dancers, swordsman seeking six-fingered man. You get the idea. But it also gave us a damn impressive sludge metal trio called Moho, which translates to mold or rust, depending on your favorite online translation. Formed in the early noughties, my first exposure to this moniker was via the excellent 2004 compilation album from Shifty Records, Crushers, Killers, Destroyers 2, where they sat proudly alongside like-minded scumbags like Weed Eater, Sloth, and Fistula.
These three made quite the racket. Vocalist bassist Inaki delivered guttural rhythmic gargles over bass lines as thick as your forearm. Guitarist Rao steamrolled forth with riffs that lived somewhere between grooviness and brutality. And drummer Idu brought a hard smashing style with earthy tones that kept their bayonets firing incessantly. I did a little research on the album title, Chotacabra, and landed on the translation, goat sucker, as the most appropriate, although several other options popped up. This is a metal review, not a Spanish class.
Released in 2008, Chotacabra was Moho's third and final full-length before calling it quits, which is a real shame considering the sheer hairy filth of this record. Lyrics bounce between Spanish and English. The title track is entirely in English, but honestly, it barely matters. The sound is like a cocktail of sleep, I hate God, and a face full of hot ash. San Mames is a great entry point. Idu channels his inner Bill Ward, tossing in deft rolls and dry clicks, and guiding the band from a sloth-like creep to a faster, chunkier tempo around the halfway mark. Let's hear a little bit. This is San Mames. Okay, back to Moho.
Terror Ultramarino is the banger of the shorter cuts, sludging its way uphill through tar pits lined with Raoul's bluesy trills and Idu's thunderous tom rolls. Then, around the 3-minute mark, the band accidentally stumbles into the album's best riff as Inaki lets out some truly subhuman screeches. It's raw, chaotic magic. But the crown jewel is Ansiago, a nearly 17-minute colossus that shifts from cinderblock crawl to an even slower crawl. 5 minutes in, you start wondering if they'll even survive the track.
It's true. I was listening to this week, and I was like, about 5-6 minutes in, I'm like, I don't think we're going to get there. I'm just waiting for somebody to just put the bass down, Anyway.
But then, out of nowhere, Idu bursts out some almost jazzy percussion moves to lift the whole thing from the grave. It's brutal, hypnotic, and weirdly graceful.
Moho officially broke up in 2011, and I'm still not sure what sunk their little armada. Each of their 3 records showed serious evolution in the band's crippled art, and Choctacabra is their final, most complete statement. The good news is you can still snag a digital copy for just $5 from Beat Generation Label's Bandcamp page. So enjoy the crush, amigos. Let's close it out with Ansiago. Okay, what did you see to me?
This is our interview with Bobby Ferry. I was new to this band for Guides from the Misguided, immediately went through their back catalog. In fact, my DJ on Spotify this week told me last night as we were running that I am in the top 5% of 16 listeners.
Wow.
So there's plenty of room on this bandwagon. Join us for Guides of the Misguided. It is a fantastic album. So let's dive in and learn a little more from Bobby.
So I want to say it's only March, and I've already found 2 albums on my best of the year list, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And ironically, both of you had goat shirts, and I had to get both. So I don't know what to do with this.
Appreciate that too.
Yeah.
I know. I looked at it and I was like, God damn it, it's a goat.
Yeah.
I'm in. So way back at the beginning, when you originally called 15, what led to that name? Were there other names or numbers in consideration?
Again, you're talking about teenagers, literally teenagers, like dumb kids. So, there was a pro skateboarder named Mark Gonzalez. He's still very prevalent, has his own shoe on Adidas and things like that. He used to write Team 15 on his boards in paint pen, and we used to hang around him a lot in the 80s. A couple of us did, and he was our idol. And so when we started a band, late teens, 19, we were called Team 15. And then we're like, team, that's kind of lame. Let's just be called 15. And then we found out via this record store in Huntington Beach, California, we brought in our 7-inch, says 15 on it. And I forget the guy that works there, probably some punk rock legend, was like, kids, there's already a band named 15. Rename yourselves and bring it back, and I'll buy your 7-inch from you. And that's literally it. And so we're like, we're 16, and it's literally that kind of dumb of an answer of, there's no deeper numerology into us or anything like that. It's just the ignorance of youth.
Well, you could have done a lot worse. There's a lot worse you could have done.
We could have.
Yeah. And you'd be stuck with it for life, right?
Well, actually, we are stuck with it, and we didn't do super great. It's a name that's like impossible to Google and things like that. So
if you could travel back in time and talk to your younger self from those early time periods, what advice would you give yourself musically, personally, or otherwise?
That's a tough one because I'm really not a nostalgia person. I always kind of believe like what happened is why we're here, and like all roads lead here. I don't know. I don't think I would tell myself anything because there's lots of mistakes, there's lots of tragedy, there's lots of there's lots of unwise things that went down. Other than buying a bunch of stock or Misfits first pressings, I don't think I'd tell myself anything. To be bluntly honest with you, it's like, at least I got the stories of all those failures, and like I said, life, death, all kinds of bullshit. So no, but if it was my own kid, yeah, I would tell him, all the basics. Stay employed, don't do drugs.
Yeah.
Stay away from girls who are into astrology, you know.
Oh,
Hey, I wanted to ask you, so in an old interview, Chris Giroux said there have been 14 dudes in this band and not one has been stable mentally or chemically. Do you think that's fair or is that a little too harsh?
That's probably accurate. uh, I mean, aside from like this, that he said that a long time ago, because he said that more than 10 years ago.
yeah.
Okay.
This lineup here has been together for like a decade, which is longer than some bands. But
Yeah.
in our 20s and into our early 30s, we were collectively a bunch of shitheads. I mean, there's no way around it. We were nice enough guys. We were just literally on drugs and just shitheads. If we weren't on hard drugs, we were drinking and smoking too much. And it definitely affected the creative progress and also the ability to support yourself and then maybe put more into the band itself. But again, we are where we are, and I couldn't. It's like you almost want to romanticize the struggle. But yeah, I mean, he's probably right. A bunch of kids are either fucking alcoholics, drug addicts, bipolar, you name it. Uh, it's probably an accurate statement as of 10 years ago, but now we're the same four dudes for a decade, who are paying the rent and raising our kids and doing all the normal shit. So there's light at the end of the tunnel. Taking our pills, taking our happy
Yeah,
pill.
yeah.
you know
92 supplements.
Mm.
So you had handled both vocals and guitar for your other project, Max Million. Did that kind of prepare you to kind of take the reins? And was it challenging kind of to take on both roles, or did it feel like a natural transition?
so a long time ago, literally almost in the 90s or early 2000s, um, I left the band. I got a job here in San Diego, and the band was based out of Los Angeles. And I was commuting for a while, and then I had a kid, and so I had this job and a kid. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not really going to be in 16 anymore. So I did start that band, Max Million, kind of in the empty space in my life because I just kept writing. I've always been writing. No, I didn't really. I mean, I only played live twice, so that really had no bearing on the me. The me that sings and plays guitar now is, the records that we've made since 2009. 2009, and beyond there, I was singing backup and writing some vocals. But really, about 5 years ago on the Dream Squasher album, I started doing way more. I think I sang 3 or 4 songs lead on that, and then wrote some vocals, and I was already singing backup. And then for Into Dust, I just did everything. And the last one, the Guides with Misguided, I just did everything. Now, I mean, I to be honest with you, I just didn't think of it. I just kind of have like a old skateboarders ethic of like I'm gonna try it and I'm gonna slam and then I'm gonna just keep trying it until I can either do it or just physically can't do it because I just can't. Like I've broken myself. So
Yeah.
I feel it's like kind of all or nothing. But as far as you know, I mean, what's the saying? You have your whole life to write your first record, and then you got like a few months to write the others.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
really want to do it. So I just never stopped really writing and creating. It's pretty easy. Vocals. I mean, it's not. It's actually really hard, but as far as the fear factor or anything like that, no. It's just I just kind of hopefully I rose to the occasion and played the position correctly if we're using sports metaphors.
Yeah. What about lyrics? Did you always, I mean, you took over lyrics when Giroux left. Did that come naturally or was that
Yeah,
different? Yeah.
I'm always I'm kind of a big literary head, from like being like a teenager reading Hunter S. Thompson and Charles Bukowski
Oh
and
yeah.
Kurt Vonnegut and James Joyce and just being all that kind of nerd. And I've always kind of been a poetry nerd. I've gone to the, in high school, I used to go see the poetry readings at McCabe's Guitar Shop in LA, and that was like Exene, Jim Carroll, Henry Rollins, Hubert Selby, and even like I was like 16 years old then, hanging out there. So like I was, I've always been that kind of head, always into metal and punk rock, and then always into the kind of associated Nick Cave and all of that, so poetry, so to speak, or
Yeah.
the punk rock writers. So it's not, I don't have to dig deep for inspiration, because all the people I mentioned and then everything that is today is providing so much.
Like, I agree with you, what you were saying. This lineup, since 2016, with the release of The Lifespan of a Month, every year or two, you guys are putting out quality releases, whether it be LP, EP, split. I definitely feel like you guys are hitting your stride. Would you say that the process of releasing music at regular intervals solidified the band's identity and creative direction over time?
I mean, hopefully it's all a work in progress. But again, I'm just like, we're going to push forward because I'm not looking back. Like, I get no joy in sitting back and going, well, that's enough.
Yeah.
Like the only joy that I get is writing new stuff, discussing it into existence with the band, getting everyone's either buy-in, and that's, and that's not saying the songs even come from me. The vocals come from me. So like just being around the whole creative osmosis. Hopefully, I feel like we're hitting like a really good productivity, and things are coming to fruition out of the speakers easier now. So, but that's just, you can't knock us for lack of trying or lack of enthusiasm. So I'm just gonna push forward with trying and enthusiasm, and then, like I said, old skateboarder thing is, I'm either gonna break my neck or just, I just can't. You just can't do it. So
I just saw the Decibel magazine thing today. That's awesome.
Yeah.
yeah, we're getting quite the string of luck here.
Yeah. It's good. I love the title Guides for the Misguided. Is that something that's directed towards your personality or the band as a whole?
Yeah, it's a little bit of dark humor in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's great.
I think there's a lot of I mean, we even had a song, Gallows Humor. I just think that if you can't, like, first of all, like I always say, like, this is a band. It's not that serious. It's not a cure for cancer. Like, I mean, art's very serious and all of that, but again, there has to be a smile and a nod once in a while. The title came from, lists of either lyric ideas or song title ideas that I have, and then I share those with the band, the old Google Doc. So we share a Google Doc, and that was just like kind of noted and highlighted by everyone that was a cool phrase, Guides to the Misguided. And then I was walking around San Francisco on just like 3 days. Went there for my birthday, and then I found a book, a guide for the misguided.
Oh, look at
And
that.
it's from, geez, I don't even know. I should be totally prepared, but I am not a prepared person, and this ain't school, so I don't give a shit. Uh, but this book is from, uh, geez, 1930 something. Written by at the time a prosecutor for in Chicago, I believe. Um, and it's basically kind of an indictment on fundamentalist religion, and how he realized that, from his anecdotal evidence, that the more fundamentally religious you were, the more apt you were for criminal behavior.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was hilarious, because, it's just in this era of, mega churches and all of the just disgusting, of that to just it's just another form of criminality. And like I didn't mean for the record to turn into an atheist manifesto, but it is what it is, and that's kind of how I found it. It was just an accident, you know. But that's the story of the title. Story of the title is I thought of the title, and then I found the book, and then the book just reaffirmed my confirmation bias about religion. So here we are.
Yeah, I thought should shelved right next to Beetlejuice's, handbook for the recently deceased.
I actually
No, but I
want one of
mean,
those books too, but I think they're blank. But
Ah.
you can buy the book.
yeah, I mean, a good indicator if you ever want to make a bad guy in a show really bad, have him start quoting the Bible. Like,
Yeah,
remember Cape Fear?
Yeah.
Where De
yeah,
Niro's walking around talking revelations and shit. I mean,
yeah.
that's creepy.
Pulp
That's when
Fiction.
you're like, all right, I'm crossing the street, like
Oh, you about to die if someone's quoting the Bible.
that's right.
You about to
That's right.
die.
That's beyond creepy. Yeah.
So I love how striking that your cover art has always been over the years. So I'm looking at this cover and I'm thinking, is this a dung beetle turning a
Yeah,
head? And if so,
yeah.
what does that say about our human condition?
Well, I mean, for one, it's the myth of Sisyphus, the rolling the stone up the hill, but it's just a dung beetle moving a human head up the apocalypse. I think it's kind of a never say die thing, but it's like nature prevails no matter what. And I think it ties into the trilogy of the other records of the cordyceps mushrooms kind of taking over the dead bird carcass or the moth. So, that is all. We've been very fortunate to work with excellent artists and have them want to work with us. And so Merrill is one that he sought us out and asked us, and we're down. So I sent him the songs at the end of the process and tell me what it makes you feel, and that's what he gave us.
Basically, we're all pieces of shit at the end. I think that's where we're
That's funny.
I didn't say that out loud, but
Well, I mean, a lot of your lyrics are about cults or addiction or evil of religion. What do you think is the worst of the worst, of those, I guess those three things or the things that you write lyrics about?
I mean, if you want to talk body count, I'm sure it's religion.
Yeah.
Like just I'm just fascinated. I'm no different than the teenage true crime fan. I just love the crime that's attached to religion because of the deep hypocrisy of it all, and that just makes it even more evil. Uh, and even more scary. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
like I said, but it's probably nothing different than some teenager's YouTube channel about true crime. I was just one of those kids, and now I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
It's like normal, like normal, like kids don't like. I remember I bought uh, what was the AK Press or something. I used to buy all those books, those research books of like angry women was one. It's like all these interviews with angry women, and then there was a Charles Manson one, a Charles Manson Superstar. Like all the you used to get at like the punk rock bookstore. I think it was AK Press, and I remember my parents going, "Why do you have all these books on Charles Manson?" The Charles Manson Superstar with the Joe Coleman cover, who later did the Guns N' Roses, inside
Oh, yeah.
of Appetite for Destruction. And I was just like, I don't know, but I never. They were like, I hope you grow out of it, and then here I am, 50, and I'm definitely not grown out of that shit.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine years ago that was also into true crime as much as we are. And he made the best statement. He said something about, well, we should talk about the moms because that's why we're all here. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. It's always the mom. The mom is the reason why the serial killers turn to,
Yeah, it's
that was like a
Freudian, man.
eureka for
If
me.
your
Yeah.
mom's not nice to you, you're doomed.
The moms
You are
create the
doomed.
Dahmers. It's like
Yeah,
inevitable. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
mm.
So I had couple track specific questions. I noticed like your titles, like Hat on a Bed, Fire and Brimstone Incorporated, don't directly link to the lyrics necessarily. Are they working titles that stuck, or is there a different method to your titling process?
I'm not a fan of just the chorus being I think there's more to it, and it was all kind of like what sums it up. And so for Hat on a Bed, the song, the whole theme of the lyrics is superstition. And then Hat on the Bed is just a famous, hilarious superstition. It's a direct reference from the movie Drugstore Cowboy with Matt Dillon and Kelly Lynch. I'm a huge fan of that movie, of course, the junkie angle, but also the Gus Van Sant camera work and I mean, it's one of Matt Dillon's just greatest performances. And we were thinking of we were like, okay, it's called Superstition. That's kind of a whatever title. And plus, Stevie Wonder already took that and owns it. So why would I call a song Superstition? And then drummer Dion, he was like Hat on a Bed, and we're like, yeah. And then we all had to stop and watch the YouTube video of the Hat on the Bed scene where he gives that speech of "you just fucked us all and I'm out of here. You put a hat on the bed and you just left me with a corpse." And it's just like, and we're like, okay, Hat on the Bed, and those who get it will get it. And
Well, I
so
got it immediately from Yellowstone.
Yeah.
oh, I didn't know. I haven't watched Yellowstone, but if they're
Oh.
having hats on beds, then I probably should
Yeah.
like that show.
It's that kind of show.
Yeah, they immediately they're in, the cowboy bunkhouse and somebody throws his hat on the bed and they're all like, "Oh my God," It's kind of like
Right.
that same scene.
Yeah.
And of course the guy who did it ends up dying, so.
Yeah, I'm not put. I just play it safe.
Uh, so I like the song seems to narrate through the cycle of like addiction and shifting to a religious fervor. I like particularly the repeated lines of never again and more of the same. Do you think addicts can ever move beyond their addictions without finding another crutch?
I I think it's the kind of personality that you let something take over. I mean, I haven't used drugs in a very long time, but it don't mean I don't think of it. I mean, like it's like we're talking like 15 years or something, and it's like it's still there. The monkey is still there. Even though it's literally been like more time not than I was using, so and maybe it manifests in different ways now, but I would say like 100 years ago, that kind of like obsessive behavior would probably be a good plus in your personality for survival. And now it's just a thing for overconsumption in the modern world of availability and no struggle. And if you want something, it's here. So the free dopamine, I think the answer is no. The answer is just no. I could have just said no. But
For me, it
personally,
was
no.
always for me, it was always as long as I never hang out with so and so again, I'll be fine. It's certain people that are like, what are you talking
I don't
about?
know,
Clean?
man. You're
What are
only
you
that
talking
means
about, clean and sober? This isn't the
that
Marchman I know. What the fuck's wrong? 10 minutes and I'd probably be right back to 1987, So, I
that
don't know.
we're always one good connect away from fucking it all up, you know. So
That's what it
like,
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
They
the
know just which buttons to push, like
yep. First one's free, man. First
yeah.
one's free.
Yeah, that's dark stuff. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I definitely love Blood Atonement Blues. What a gritty
Yeah.
song. It's just such a grinder. When looking at figures like Avril Lavigne and Charles Manson, do you think LeBaron was more effective in making abuse and mind control the new normal, kind of using that religious fear, or did Manson's approach of like charm first, acceptance, free love prove more insidious? Which method do you think would be more dangerous?
Oh, it's clearly the organized religion one. I mean, Irva LeBaron was just a more successful killer than Manson. and a scarier. He got a bunch of people to do it for him, and he did it himself too. And he had it, you know, I think Charles Manson was just a lunatic pimp that timed things perfectly, in the zeitgeist, and being where he was at the time, for his own, for his own criminal behavior. But Errol the Baron had good and evil and forever, and polygamy and all of this shit on his side. Not to mention the tax breaks. So like that's like Errol the Baron is just a terrifying figure. I mean, he died in Supermax. And the fact that nobody even knows about it, the fact there's not a goddamn movie on it, that like Woody Harrelson's not playing, is surprising.
Yeah.
It's totally surprising me. Like, somebody just make that movie like No Country for Old Men, make it scary and quiet, and just tell the real story of what that dude and his family and his lunatics did to each other and to other people. And I think you got a winner. So
the very beginning of that song, I was like, at first I was like, why are they doing Total Eclipse of the Heart the first time I listened through it? Was that intentionally a nod to that song, or is it just a little similar that I'm not picking up on?
I think it's less like, so being in a band, you edit each other, but you also give each other feedback in real time. Alex wrote the music to the song, and the first solo was the most fucking triumphant, flag waving thing I've ever heard. And we automatically edited that out. And then he made separate, different takes. And that's the solo he landed on, and that everybody else kind of landed on. Like, it's uplifting, but not too much. But it's definitely a little out of character for us. Now, whether he has heard Total Eclipse of the Heart, I don't even think he's ever heard it, to be bluntly honest with you. But I can kind of get the vibe. It almost has an 80s kind of 80s solo vibe, early 80s, of course. So
Yeah, I'm over here scratching my head trying to say, okay, they were a total eclipse, but then it gets dissonant. What does that mean with I'm trying to figure out.
so
Have you
that's
seen any recent cult documentaries that have made you go, "Pow"?
yes. Holy shit. The numbers gang in
Write
South
that down.
Africa.
Write that down.
Yeah.
We always write these down because we want
There's
to
a
see them all.
Ross Kemp on gangs. It's a British documentary from like 20 years ago called The Numbers Gang. It's about prison gangs in South Africa and how they started. It's totally terrifying. And then there was one I literally watched last night, called Sugar Cane, about the residential schools and that fucking horrific story of the Catholic Church essentially killing children. Over
Yeah.
200 at one in one. I think it's St. Charles Catholic. They used to take the American Indian children from like 1890 to, I don't know, 1990, and put them in basically reform schools that would quote unquote westernize them. And then they found basically a mass grave, and uncovered this horrific abuse by the Catholic Church and by the powers that be, and that one's called Sugarcane. That's that that deserves a look at the
Yeah.
tragedy and the utter, again, Catholicism and
Yeah.
abuse.
What was the one
So
you
there you go.
recommended?
Oh, that was the Love Has Won. Love Has Won.
Have you seen that
That's
one?
pretty nutty.
Love Has Won.
God, I don't know. I just watched that Mormon one too. That
Yeah, all the Mormon ones are dark as shit. Yeah.
And that Twin
all
Flames
right.
one was crazy.
Twin Flame.
Yeah, that Twin Flames
crazy.
one is crazy. I will watch that. Love Has Won.
Yeah, Love Is One. It's worth watching. Yeah.
It's about a woman who decides that she is God.
Yeah.
And pretty much all she does all day is drugs and drink, and with this bunch of commune, but she's God, and they have all these followers, and they do
And
videos.
the more she drinks and drugs, the more her followers say she's channeling all the problems of the world. That's why she needs to be inebriated all the time. But it's just like this endless cycle, and they all live together in this house, and yeah, it's a good one.
I'm listening.
It's a good one. Yeah, it's a good one.
You know, the one, it's called Devil in the Family, The Fall of Ruby Frank. That's some like Mormon mom influencer, like YouTube personality. It gets dark. So yeah, there's no shortage of darkness, and
Yeah.
particularly cult and religious.
So, in thanks and praises, how did that banjo player and cocaine section come about? Was it like a result of a jam or spontaneous improvisation? When you guys like go blah 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 blah, blah and everything's everywhere, and then you go back to the other segment, and then it's like back to the kind of banjoish.
Um, Give Thanks and Praises is a cover by Bad Brains.
Ah,
On a record they did that the guy from the Beastie Boys, I believe his name was MCA, the one who passed away, he produced. And apparently the record making it, like, HR was never there or something. I don't know the story behind the record, but it's like a deep cut even for Bad Brains that I don't even think his song is streaming. You have to go to like YouTube, or you have to own the record to find it. It's not streaming on platforms. Um, but that's, again, the drummer Dion was just like, listen to this song, and we were like, that's fascinating. We're gonna cover it. Like, it's, it was like, because it's like, it's only two parts, but they're done subtly different every time. And the vocals are just like, I don't know, singing underwater through delay or
yeah.
something. And so that's just kind of our nod to the Bad Brains. We all collectively love them, and no one else would write a song like that than them. It's, it's just odd. And that's just speaks to their genius.
So I want to
Uh,
ask you, fire and brimstone. So
it was my jam.
yeah, there's a lyric, dance all you want tomorrow. Today we'll really sin. And what's behind that lyric?
That's like kind of a narrative song about going to Christian schools, which I definitely went to Christian schools. you know I went to Christian schools during puberty, and so it's just like the shame it teaches you that, like, uh but again, like, it's just kind of a narrative song. Again, I did not mean for this album to have every single goddamn song about that. I did not mean to do that at all. It was just, but then again, I mean, you could say the same about like the first three Danzig records. They're all in that kind of vein too. So, I'm definitely not reinventing the wheel or anything. It's just rock and roll goes good with the about sinning, and the guilt, the Christian guilt and the Catholic guilt. But that's kind of what I meant about it. It was kind of a narrative of going to Christian schools. I live in California, so it's always like this Calvary Chapel and this kind of fucking toxic positivity. Just give us 20% of your income, and
Yeah, exactly.
the
Yeah.
kind of the grift it is. But when you're young, your brain is soft and you're falling for it. Even though I sensed it was bullshit then, even when I was like 8 years old, I'm like, this doesn't sound right.
So
Yeah.
I noticed the lyrics in the tower felt different right away. So, and that was, figured out it was a super chunk cover a little bit after that. What attracted you to that? That's such a dark song. I love it though. But the woman who climbs the tower and shoots imaginary guys, it's kind of like good Me Too fodder.
That, and he has that kind of thing too, where he's like, these people just ain't right. I serve them, I listen to their shit. So it's like just being like I don't know, a waiter or waitress or a server, to be
Young Republic.
ambiguous,
Yeah.
and of the fucking grind of just despising humanity when you do that for long enough. Especially, I mean, 90% of the people can be cool, and it's the 10% that'll just ruin it for the rest of them. But I thought that song was super cool, and it didn't even intend to be on an album. It was just a part of a bunch of covers that we recorded, and we're like, I think it's if you listen to 16, there's really a faint chance that you listen to Super Chunk. So I think that, I think we benefit from the association, not the other way around. But I just thought it was a solid song, man, that needed, like, lyrically, it's amazing. got the riffs. I just like it. So I no apologies. I'm just throwing shit on records that I didn't write, but whatever. But
Well,
Spotify
hey,
ain't paying me anyway, so who cares?
they're not paying anybody. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, kick out the chair made me immediately think of Shawshank Redemption. That's like writing a song called "There's a Shotgun in My Mouth." I mean, is that really about what I think it's about, or what? I mean,
Was it like the is that Rollins band? It's like Gun and Mouth Blues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It it's kind of, like live on the thin ice is almost like living with financial instability. Uh, so that was the kind of metaphor I was going to. And then of course it just kind of it's a long song. And the second verse kind of tells that little story of what are you gonna do? You're gonna fall through the ice, or are you just gonna kick out the chair? And I thought it was, I thought it was a cool metaphor instead of, calling a song the noose or something. You know, but it's more about just living on the thin ice and doing battle on the thin ice. So it's not really a suicide Ozzy Osbourne suicide solution
Yeah,
song or
yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah.
That was just that. In fact, that was where we actually took a cool line from the song and named it when we could have, I don't know, called it the Thin Ice or something. It was.
Right.
I thought that was just a striking title.
It's good. It gets your attention. I love the intro and the outro on that one. Of course, me always trying to find Easter eggs. I was like, that flowy beginning has like that hum through it, and the outro, the hum stops, and I'm like, I don't think that means anything good.
Oh, it means that we either forgot to do it at the end or someone in the moment made the creative call. Everything is just kind of I like creativity by accident.
Yeah, kind of like signal for me. Okay, that was the end, of hope. It died right there. So it was good, really
Yeah.
good. Where did you shoot the video for Proudly Damned? We were arguing. He's in logistics, so he said it was a container. I'm like, no, I think it's a little studio.
It looked like you were inside an ocean container to me, but
Oh, I wish. No, it's an art gallery and event space in LA that Barney, the bass player, was friends with one of the artists who runs it. It's called the
Okay.
Moon Hut, and it's basically a World War II era little barrack that are half circle, made out of corrugated steel. So it's just kind of a cool place in LA that they have events. And we had the inn because he knew the guy that owned it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's everything with us is like that.
Yeah.
I loved the woman with the bad teeth and the priestess headdress. And what are they doing to that head?
I don't know. I wasn't there for it. I paid for it, but no. That was just literally like just the director Carlos sent me the concept, filmed us, and he was the man with the plan. And he outsourced the makeup to one of his friends who does quite a bit of that. I think it's Art or something like that. And she's really good. And they did a great job on our video, uh, right on time, like a day before it was released. So that's how everything is.
I really like the kind of schizophrenic thing when you have kind of the two voices going as she lays down beside you. You're not push a witch away, and then it kind of keeps going back and forth. Is that kind of like like an internal argument?
No, like when you guys are a married couple.
Yeah.
So guys, when you get in like a weird fight that has no resolution, and then you go to bed mad at each other, and just that vibe that is just ugh. I was trying to just convey that. But
Yeah.
again, that's kind of like the ick you feel yourself for either like relapsing. So the witch is the metaphor, but I've been married for like 25 years or something, or 20 years, I don't know, a long time. And I kind of wanted to convey that, like, not that I'm calling anyone a witch, okay? No one is called a witch. That is
Very
metiphorical for
important
drug
disclaimer.
abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I I thought that was the kind of cool line that, and then using drugs as that metaphor too. It's like, here comes the bad vibes laying in bed with you. You can either embrace or push them away.
You wanna do our game?
Yeah. All right, so we play a game on the show. It's called Blaspheming Monikers. Okay. And here's how it works. I have 5 band names in front of me. One of them is fake. So we're gonna see if you can guess which one is not a real band. Okay. Okay. 1, Gaping Grave. 2, Flooded Grave. 3, Emily's Grave. 4, Boreal Grave. And 5, Amazing Grave. Which one sounds fake?
To be honest with you, none of those. And I guarantee you that if you looked, Borealis grave.
They're real. They're deathcore from
Italy.
Finland.
Ah,
Finland. They have 1 full length and 5 singles. So no, they're real. So that leaves Gaping Grave, Flooded Grave, Emily's Grave, and Amazing Grave.
someone has definitely taken Amazing Grave. Emily's Grave sounds like a rock band that does Jane's Addiction covers. What was the other one? What was the other one?
Gaping Grave and Flooded Grave.
I'm gonna go with Gaping Grave, even though I know it's like a porno grind band. But let's go with Gaping Grave.
They're Canadian and they have 1 EP.
Of course they are.
They're thrash from Ottawa. So
Of course they are. All right.
no, the one I made up was Emily's Grave, actually. So
Oh,
yeah.
well, you just made up a band that's gonna start anytime
I have a knack
now.
for making up band names that would look good on a patch. Like I've been told that. Yeah, they don't have to be real, but the patch would look great.
Skank Fragment was yours.
Skank Fragment is my best achievement. Yes.
Skank Fragment.
Yeah.
Are
Fragment.
they like
It's got to be a female singer.
Screamo ska?
Yeah, got to be a female singer. We are Skank Fragment. Yeah. Kind of garage punk vibe. Yeah.
I don't know, man. Emily's Grave, like that's like Emily Dickinson. I mean, that's just a band name waiting to happen.
I know. It's got almost like a King Diamond vibe about it. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. It's great.
Definitely gothic.
Yeah.
I think I stole it. I just started that band. Don't
It's
worry
all
about
yours.
it.
It's all yours.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Just registered it.
So you guys recently had a European tour. Did you include any songs from Guides in this Misguided?
Oh, hell yeah. I don't write them for nothing. We don't work, as you say, we don't write them for nothing. Yeah, we played like 3 or 4 new songs. They went over good. They're, fresh in everyone's ears, hopefully. But yeah, we played like 3 or 4 songs every single night.
That's great.
Awesome.
That's great to be in that position because I watched this interview with D. Snyder and he goes, the worst thing you want to say is this is a new one because you just see everyone heading for the restroom as soon as you say that.
Yeah,
And
but
I'm thinking,
that's if you have a band with hits. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like to think each of our records is better. And that's bringing them in, not the record from 20 years ago really isn't bringing them in too much.
Yeah.
You know,
You're right. You're right.
I would say like if you have the lyrics tattooed on your body, I'll play that song. And
Okay.
that happens every once in a while. It's like, yes, I will play that song.
Yeah.
So after all these years in music, what's the strangest or most ridiculous Spinal Tap moment that you've ever had on tour?
It could like, I mean, every tour has several that are just hilarious. And you keep, I mean, you got to notice like how special it is to be on tour and just surviving. But like the euphoria of it. But I mean, this could literally be like its own podcast. We've had just so many hilarious from like, buying weed from a promoter kid who disappeared, and then we all went over to his house and took the money back from him from his parents. That's just one. And that was like probably in the 90s. There's, sleeping in squats, there's throwing up in vans, there's having cops search you, there's cops in France. There's staying with a promoter in France who got way too drunk and we kicked him out of his own house. You know, I mean, there's just, you know, this past one, they were all parking related, but they were hilarious of just German people just telling us, no, you cannot park here. You know, there's just any kind of traveling is, especially on tour, if you do it every single day and you're doing like, between 4 and 10 hour drives each day, you're just by the odds of putting yourself in that many positions. I mean, there's been so many that, at least now there's a certain amount of comfort that can be had. It's not like, hey, you got 8 hours to kill. Why don't you just take a nap on a bench in a park in some foreign city? It's more like now let's we can actually, get a hotel or a hostel or go out to lunch. So I got no complaints recently, but they were all parking related. There's the relative like kind of bad shows. Like a few years ago, we played like a Wednesday night. I won't say like the city, but it ended up being like a high school party basically,
Yeah.
and like with high school bands. And then like the PA was like a karaoke machine, and it was like in a Moroccan restaurant, and like it was just like hilarious. And at that point I always just say like a bad show just turns into performance art. Like I'm just gonna we're gonna play our songs at full volume like we're playing a packed show to not horrified diners, and then the minute we're done playing they started blasting Creed arms wide
Yeah.
open when we were playing, or when we're
Right.
done playing. And it was just like, okay, this is just how is this not performance art?
Yeah.
So literally we've been doing it a long time, so we all got tons of hilarious stories, and that could probably be its own podcast.
Get it.
What up
Yeah.
next for you guys? More tour,
Yeah,
more
exactly.
music,
Yeah.
more surprises, maybe Baltimore, because that's where we're from.
Yeah.
I just kind of say yes to most things that come across us. And that's the MO thus far. There's always more music with us. We have music. We have tons of new music. We almost have more music than the world needs from us. So there's definitely recordings that are kind of ready to go. There's some offers, some good ones. And then we're always playing local shows. We're always kind of out there in Southern California, which, they say as a touring band you shouldn't do, but it's like, I'm not staying home on that night, so let's just go to a show and play it if we're all gonna be there. So,
Yeah.
like I
Why
don't really
wouldn't
give
you?
a shit.
Yeah.
I don't really give a
Yeah.
shit about the business angle of that and whether people see us too much in this town or don't care or care. I don't really, it's not about them, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm sure something always lands on our desk, so to speak. And we'll say yes and we'll go do it like we always do.
Yeah, I could definitely lure you out here to Maryland Doom Fest. That's a fun 3 days.
Yeah. Well, I guess
Yeah.
sort of the same comparison would be like, because we're from Maryland, Clutch is always playing around here. So you're never going to not go see Clutch because, oh, well, they're local. No, they're not. Give me a break. They've transcended that, please.
They
I
just
don't
did
think
Glass
I don't think we've
Tire.
transcended that. San Diego is a pretty tough town. Like a lot of people just, San Diego's like LA or New York City. There's like a lot better things going on every night. Like it's pretty stiff competition here by this paradise by the sea.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
Yeah.
but then again, we're playing live anyways. I don't really care.
Yeah.
We'll play a goddamn Moroccan restaurant on a Wednesday night to a high school party. It got overrun by like the how do I say it? The unhoused people all came in without paying.
Oh,
So
okay.
it all worked out for a good time.
The sounds of decay!
Okay, Sounds of Decay 1.
This is Vacuous with In His Blood. Vacuous is defined as lacking content or marked by lack of ideas or intelligence. I'd argue this dynamic five-piece out of London is quite the opposite. Maybe they should rebrand as Unvacuous. Honing their sound since forming in 2020, this is their second full-length release and their first on the Relapse label. The album features 8 tracks, mostly in the 3 to 4 minute range, with the closer stretching just over 6. In total, we get 31 minutes of ripping death metal, part rocket-fueled aggression, part eerie ambiance, and full of guitar gymnastics.
If the bloody crime scene on the album cover didn't tip you off, complete with a body on the back cover and a tableau only Dexter could appreciate, then the first few seconds of track 1 will. In His Blood explodes from the gate with a savage drum roll into Max Southall's torrential blast beats, followed by Joe Chen's anguished, drawn-out scream. Buckle up. What follows is pure mayhem and murder vibes. Michael Brodsky's tremolo guitar shrieks like a deranged viola, creating a creeping, uncanny undercurrent. Southall's relentless stickwork forms a clunk-lunk percussive storm beneath Chen's throat full of gravel growl, calling to mind early Incantation. Ezra Harkin's deep, pitch-black riffs replace the tremolos only for them to resurface later, and Zach Muller's bass cracks like a whip. A beefy breakdown near the end is a highlight, even as the drums never let up from gale force mode.
On Hunger, Brodsky mentioned they were inspired by the idea of The Cure writing a death metal song. Without any bouncy goth synths, you'd never guess it. But I guess if you squint, you might catch it in the smeary liquid guitar notes and whispered vocals layered over soft tap drums. The hunger here depicted isn't for a cheeseburger, it's the obsessive bloodlust of a serial killer. Law forever near, hunger, torture, fear. Neighbors disappear.
I fell down on my rear. Sorry, couldn't help it.
When the vocals rupture, the drums ignite into blast beat fury, linking tightly with the riffing. A brief interlude of plodding notes features background dialogue, possibly sampled from a documentary. I caught a woman muttering, "I think I hate him," as her voice bubbles up in the quieter moments. When the drums return like 1,000 hammer blows, tremolo guitar floats above before dropping into a low back-and-forth groove, with Chêne caterwauling all the while.
Let's hear a little bit of Hunger. Okay, Contraband takes a much darker turn, inspired by the true story of 39 Vietnamese migrants who suffocated in a truck while being smuggled into England. It is a literal horror show. The track begins with ominous plodding notes and a steadily rising, piercing tone. Southall starts with a solitary kick drum pulse, then erupts into full kit assault before pulling back again. Chen's vocals are vicious and low, dragging out the word contraband like a curse. You don't eat, your stomach splits, lungs like lead, 39 dead again. Tremolos reemerge in the midpoint, vibrating alongside Muller's bass, which seems to growl in protest. The drums take on a helicopter blade cadence, igniting into a blur of swirling riffs that somehow remains tightly structured amidst the chaos.
My favorite track might be the closer, No Longer Human. It starts with a flatline tone, and then snap crack of drums and cymbal crashes puncture the silence. Muller's bass locks into a groove with the low guitar riffs, while Harkin and Brodsky weave independent melodies that swirl through the mix. Chen's vocals morph from gnarled growl to croaking yelp. The drums suddenly erupt as if jolted by a starter pistol, sprinting into blast beats. After a full stop, only reverb-drenched feedback remains. Then the drums return with doom-laden vengeance. Chen's dripping yowls ride over churning guitars, culminating in one long, pit-inducing howl as the blast beats close in for the kill. We've talked about having different influences, and it felt a bit of a dare to push things further, guitarist Michael Brodsky explains. If old school death metal is a beef roast, Vacuous throws in vegetables, tops it with mashed potatoes, and bam, you've got some shepherd's pie. Some purists might prefer to stick with the beef, but I find it refreshing to cook up something new instead of reheating last night's leftovers. Let's play a clip. This is No Longer Human.
Okay, Sounds of Decay 2.
Sounds of Decay 2 is Cercle de Chêne, Retites de Autumn et Chasse.
Hey, we all like to get weird in the woods once in a while, and personally, I can see no better soundtrack than the debut album from Cercle de Chêne entitled What Stace Just Said. The band's name translates to Oak Circle, and the album to Tales of Autumn and Hunting, consisting of 7 epic tracks, most in the 7 to 10 minute range, so make sure you pack extra trail mix for this one.
Formed in 2020, Cercle de Chêne is one of several projects for one Joanna Mayens, a prolific young French musician who is also a member of black metal band Tour de Voir and runs the French label Antique Records along with her husband Leon Guzlin, who is also involved in a dozen or so bands. There is a lot going on in this album, which explores the notion of a hunt from the perspective of the animals. If you like music with a cinematic vibe, then this concoction of trumpet fanfares, male choirs, tribal drums, bagpipes, harsh female vocals, and cracking heavy riffs should get your antlers moving without ruffling any feathers whatsoever.
There's an air of triumph and pomp to these 7 tracks, lots of exotic spoken word segments, folk-infused synth interludes, and quirky melodies. Think early Genesis crossed with Arch Enemy, something like that. The 10-plus minute La Croix entre les Bois, which is the cross between the woods, it deserves a mention for its booming percussion, processional tempo, and dungeon synth interludes, a sound as refreshing as it is original, and Mayhen's witchy vocals add a dark edge to the proceedings. Let's hear a little bit. This is the cross between the woods.
Doom fans that can't see the forest for the trees should check out the track, In the Crystal Frost. It is a sulkish pace and folk interludes simultaneously uplifting and crushingly heavy. If I had to pick a favorite, it would have to be track 4, Hunting Days, mainly for the stops and starts that alternate battering speed metal crescendos with quirky interludes of elfin magic. If you're strictly deicide and early cannibal, this may not be the perfect album for you. But for adventurous extreme metal fans, this elegant woodland metal could just be the French kiss you always desired. Let's play a song. This is Hunting Days.
Okay, Sounds of Decay 3 is the new album from Lick entitled Necro. Now, I've spent the better part of a lifetime listening to stuff like Grave, Entombed, Dismember, Aneda, Nihilist, Necrophobic. You get the idea. At this point, I'm like a hardened crime scene investigator, up to my neck in hacked up body parts, complaining about the hours being too long and the coffee sucks. Imagine my surprise upon hearing Necro, the brand new album from Swedish death metal outfit Lick, and being absolutely blown away. I dropped my bone saw, I misplaced the rib shears, and I had to replace a complete set of scalpels. That's how good it is.
This is the fourth album by Lit, a moniker that translates to corpse in Swedish, since forming about 10 years ago. And I really feel bad for sleeping on these guys until now. Most modern takes on Swedish death metal produce 3 to 4 decent riffs, diluted out to cover both sides of a vinyl record, with a few whammy grab guitar solos for good measure. But Lit has concocted a sound rooted in the classic Stockholm sound, packed with thrilling movements and refreshingly interesting arrangements.
Necro is 10 songs that flash by quickly in the album's scant 40-minute runtime. The first thing that jumps out about Lick is the attention to detail. The guitar solos are lyrical and melodic, often enhanced by harmonized segments from the Axemen, Nicholas Sandin, and Thomas Akvik. Of course, the classic buzzsaw riff tone associated with the region is ever present and brick heavy, but the melodies and fills on these songs have been deftly arranged to make good songs into great songs. You have to hand it to producer Lawrence Macquarie, who has worked with artists like Catatonia, Defleshed, and Witchery, for extracting such a lethal sound from this 5-piece. The drums sound huge, Akvik's vocals raw and brutal, and the stained glass guitar arrangements manage to sneak in a little John Christ-style blues lick here and there if you listen carefully. Let's hear a little bit of what we're talking about. This is Deceased.
Listen to something like the gloriously titled War Rat, kicking off with a thick wrought iron bass line from Joachim Artman, advancing into a deliciously groovy doom crawl. Avik painting refreshingly vocal landscapes. I am drenched in slime, a mixture of secretion, semen, and grime. A hook-tastic blues-soaked guitar solo erupts at the track's midpoint, cycling through riff after glorious riff without ever changing the dirge-like tempo. It sets up the next cut, shred into pieces perfectly, which blasts into hyperactive from the very first note, drummer Chris Barkinso doling out the dismember-style punishment. Avrek groaning, rape, torture, endless flesh. You want harmonies? You got 'em. Fields of Death kicks off with spectacular twin git magic, drums at about 1,000 beats per minute, riff tone like granite. At this point in the album, you find yourself looking forward to the guitar solos, and this one does not disappoint. Sandin and Avik weaving dramatic tapestry of howling, tapping majesty.
Okay, so maybe we were a little late to this horror show, but we're fully on board now. The album drops April 18th on Metal Blade, so get on it. We have our tickets to MDF all lined up, and these guys are an attraction we will be sure to check out. Do you have your MDF tickets yet? As far as I know, the only night that's sold out is the Pentagram Thursday show because Bobby Liebling is the most popular man in metal right now, which feels weird, but good for him. Let's close it out with Fields of Death. I have a real concern about this week's show. I'm just wondering, did we make enough Abba jokes?
I don't know.
I don't know if we did enough. This has been the Snaggletooth Decay Extreme Music Podcast. Special thanks to Bobby from 16 for appearing on the show. Snaggletooth theme by Gustav Jord of Defleshed. Sounds of Decay theme by Steve Rathbone of Lair of the Minotaur. Sounds of Decay bands reviewed this week: Lick, Vacuous, and Cercle de Chêne. All content 2025, the Snaggletooth Decay Extreme Music Podcast.
I'm ready for Bring Your Abba to Work Monday.
God.
This is the Snaggletooth Extreme Metal Podcast.
Chiquitita, you and I